Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Ridgecrest City Council. I apologize in advance if I cough from the podium. I am recovering from a common cold, but I have been properly tested and negative, so if I cough, don't worry about it. I have a cover up here. Can we go ahead and call the meeting to order with roll call? Here.
Mr. Blades.
Present.
Mr. Rajaratnam.
Present.
Mr. Heyman.
Present.
Ms. Breeden. Present. 5 present. We have a quorum.
Okay, first item, can I ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Oh, I didn't do the approval of the agenda, did I?
It's okay. We can do it after this.
Sorry. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Solomon?
Please join me in prayer. Lord, thank you for giving us this day. Thank you for this town of Ridgecrest which we live and cherish. Lord, I pray for our country. Lord, I request you to pour out your love, life, and liberty on our country. Lord, let this country be a beacon of hope, a beacon of freedom, and a beacon of liberty to other countries, Lord. I pray for our troops who are in harm's way, protect them from all evil. I pray especially for Afghanistan, give peace in that country, Lord. I pray for our Ridgecrest Police Department and also Police Department elsewhere. Lord, protect them from all evil. Lord, their life is on the line from the time they leave their houses and get back, Lord. So I ask you to give them your protection. Lord, be with us during this meeting. Bless each one of us who is present here today. Let the discussions and the decisions we make here be useful for the betterment of this community. In Jesus' precious name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
So my apologies for not following the agenda. I need to go back for approval of the agenda.
So move.
Do I have a motion for approval? I have a motion from Peggy. Do I have a second?
Second.
Please vote. Oh,
Who's it going to be today?
Oh, no, it's going to be one of those days.
It's me. Solomon.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you very much. Okay, I apologize for that. Next item on the agenda this evening is public comment of items not on the agenda. Persons wishing to address the council on matters that are within the council's jurisdiction and do not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take action on any item that does not appear on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes, and the public comment section of the agenda is limited to a total of 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name. I want to first thank, obviously, we've got more people in the audience, which is great. We're glad to see you all here at City Council. And for those purposes, I am going to take from the calls first, and then I'll take from the floor. Do I have any callers on the phone? I have no callers. I'll go ahead and take from the floor.
Good evening, Council. Tom Wicknick, 204 Cielo. First, I want to open up by giving you a little bit of congratulations and attaboy for your effort to increase communication with the people. I've heard a couple of meetings where, watching from home, where you're doing a number of things on social media, et cetera, and trying to help the communication, which is, I think is good, and you should be applauded for that. But I'd like to encourage you to go further than what you're doing. And my encouragement comes from the fact of first starting right here at public comment. Okay? The Brown Act provides that the public has a chance to speak at every meeting, which that's what this portion of the meeting is for. It also allows for us to have a discussion, because to me, communication is back and forth, not just you talk or dictate, and I talk and dictate to you. It's a good discussion back and forth when there's a discussion worth having. And the situations like last meeting, there was a caller that called in, and you had a real good discussion with him. You went back and forth, and you discussed, I think it was about the street lights or something like that. And I was sitting at home saying, now that's the way you handle public comment. That was good. All right? But then somebody later on in the meeting said there was a little concern about how much discussion was had during that portion of the meeting. And I was saying, no, I think the concern is to try and limit it again, and it shouldn't be limited. The Brown Act allows you to, members of the legislative body, to have briefly response to us, the people, and have a discussion with us about things we may bring up. It's okay to do that. It's not prohibited. The only thing prohibited is for you to make a decision. That's all that's prohibited. It's okay to talk back and forth and ask questions of the public when they're up here, just like you did with that gentleman on the phone. There's nothing wrong with that. And I would encourage you to do that. I would encourage you in your communication where you're using social media for some of the stuff you're putting out to turn on comments so people can comment about it instead of putting up and having the comments turned off. Okay? I know some of you watch social media quite a bit. And when you hear people put stuff up on social media about, hey, what do you think of the council doing this or doing that? Okay? One thing that comes up quite often is they say, or somebody will say, well, go down to the council meeting and say something about it. Go down there and speak your mind. And then how many times will somebody come in there, because it's a waste of time, they never listen, they never respond. Whether that's accurate 100% or not, that is the impression people have, that you don't, since you don't respond to public comment when the person is at the podium, they think you're not listening. Yet every meeting you say, we encourage you to come down and talk to us, we are listening to you. You commented about meeting with people individually. That's excellent. That's excellent for the ones of you that are doing that. You're getting good input from the public. But bring that back. Share that with the rest of the council during a regular meeting when you meet with people, and let us know what you're discussing. What's of interest to the people out there? Why are they coming and contacting you? What are they talking to you about? I don't mean to violate any kind of personal thing or anything like that, but just in a general sense. Last meeting, Mike Neal came up here, or asked, why don't we have it on the meeting about the GA? How come it's not on the agenda anymore? And I think I heard later on, well, it's not on the agenda because there's litigation. That doesn't mean you can't have it on the agenda and just receive comment from the people. The people want to talk about the GA. They want to talk to our representative and you folks about the GA. They just want an opportunity to do that. When it was on the agenda, they had that opportunity. You take it off the agenda because you're hiding behind, there's litigation, you don't have to hide. Put it back on the agenda. And by the way, when he did bring up that comment, you didn't answer him when he was up here. You waited till later in the meeting. Why didn't you answer him when he was at the podium? You could have. There was nothing wrong. A lot of times people ask questions here, you have an answer, and you just don't answer. So all I'm saying now is I'm trying to encourage you to respond to people during public comment, acknowledge what they're saying, other than after I go sit down, thank you for your comments. If there's a response, provide that response. And then take that to the bank, so they say. Anyway, keep doing what you're doing and trying to improve your communication. But remember, communication is a two-way process. Please be receptive to people contacting you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I will say public comment is at 6:15, which allows for more public discussion and any inputs long before we may get to discussion items, which would be much longer in the agenda.
Oh, no. Well, on that specific, Tom, there you are. So that specific item you're talking about, that was me that said that. So what I said was, the mayor said, well, I guess we should have waited to give direction because we sent it to the committee. And I said, yep, that's where we should do that. And the discussion actually worked out. So that was an example, Tom, of a good back and forth. It wasn't even really a back and forth. It was just a clarification. So that's
clarification. And I think we have public comment from the same gentleman this evening.
Right. So that is how this section is supposed to go. And I'm sure you even remember, right? You've been on the council.
I do, yes.
So the way I understand it from all of my training is that if somebody makes a comment, we can ask you a clarifying question. Like if you say, there's a pothole in my neighborhood, I can say, well, which road is that? What exactly are we talking about? Yeah. And so I will do that if that's the case. Right. I don't think a lot of times people are looking for our comments. Sometimes people just want to talk at us.
Then thank you for responding to me so I can respond. Sure. And again, I applaud you again. But in one of the exceptions is legislative body, as a body, can take action to direct staff to place the matter of business on future agendas. Or for other things to discuss. So there's nothing out of line in doing that, referring it to staff. Thank you.
Tom, Tom, I'd like to add too that I can assure yourself and the public that we will be discussing the GA and progress and in the future. So
Excellent. Appreciate that.
Yep.
Okay, next.
Hello, Lindsay Stevens. My address is on file. Hello, former base.
We haven't seen you in a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, good evening, members of the council. I'm here tonight to introduce a newly formed large group of local citizens. We're going to be having a march later that you may have seen, and Saturday there was some activity. We're called We the People of Ridgecrest, California. Our mission is to promote and protect faith, family, and freedom in our community. We strongly believe in upholding our inalienable rights that have been endowed to us by our Creator. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our government was designed to be a constitutional republic with higher levels of government, federal and state, to be limited, and the most control to be given to the local government. The state, federal government, and the CDC have greatly overstepped their role. We are here tonight to request that you, as our local elected officials, intercede on our behalf and approve a resolution to restore the power to the people. I have reviewed other resolutions that other government boards across the country have adopted and have drafted one that we would like for you all to consider adopting at the next council meeting. In addition, we would like to request that you would look into joining a lawsuit filed by the Orange County School Board against the state on abusing their emergency powers. I'm now going to read the resolution that we are proposing to be adopted. COVID-19 continues to spread among individuals who have or have not been vaccinated, and among those who do or do not wear masks. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, has once again changed the direction in mask and vaccination guidance. The CDC guidelines contradict prior guidance and may not reflect circumstances that exist in our community. In Ridgecrest, California, we believe health decisions are best made by individuals in consultation with their medical professionals. Common sense should be exercised. Ridgecrest Regional Hospital and Kern County Health Department have worked and continue to work diligently to ensure that testing and vaccines are available to those who want them. Anyone who wants to obtain vaccinations, anyone who wants can wear a mask, and anyone who chooses to forego masks or vaccinations has the right to do so. We have had COVID with us for over a year and a half. Citizens have been provided with endless information regarding how to protect themselves from COVID and are fully capable of making their own decisions. We need to stop depending on the federal and state governments to push safety measures and mandates, which deny the people the freedom they deserve to make their own health choices. Additionally, parents should be determining whether their children return back to schools with or without masks, vaccinated or unvaccinated. Finally, we fully support and respect the right of citizens to make decisions regarding their own families. We have been fortunate that cases have remained low in our community, but we trust that if they rise again, the people of this community will make their own wise decisions regarding how to take care of themselves. We will continue to do everything to see that necessary services for testing and vaccinations are made readily available to everyone in the community, and look forward to the time when we are able to move past the COVID pandemic. So again, since I have a little bit extra time, I just really plead with you. There is nothing controversial in here saying something's good, something's bad. It's just putting the power back in the people's hands where it belongs. We should have the right to choose whether we want to do these things or not. And with all of these mandates that continue to be passed down, I think it's time for our local government to take a stand. So, thank you.
Ms. Stevens? So to be clear, I just want to make sure I understand. Your request is simply that we would place this on an agenda item at a future meeting, correct?
Yes, I would like to request that you would place it on the next agenda for discussion and proposed action or potential action. I'd be more than happy to write a staff report. I've done it a time or two before.
That won't be necessary. And then in regards to the lawsuit information with the Orange County School Board, you're encouraging the city to take on additional legal expense?
Potentially, yes. I know previously with the sanctuary city, we joined through an amicus brief, which did not cost much money at all.
Any other comments?
So at this point in time, we really don't know how much that would cost or the depth at which.
Right. So we could just, I'm sure Lloyd, he's fantastic at this. He did it already before with the sanctuary city one, where there's a lawsuit already been filed, it's already in action, so you just join through an amicus brief that says, we support this action.
Right, we understand that. I'm just making sure you're encouraging the city to take on additional legal expense.
Yeah. And like I mentioned, the group is growing. We only formed less than a week ago. We have well over 800 people in our Facebook group. There's a lot more that are support this cause that are not on Facebook, and we're planning to have a march later on as well.
So 800 people represents about 3% of the community, correct?
Yes, as I mentioned, it just formed less than a week ago. So are you not for freedom and people having liberties?
Oh, no, I absolutely. I happen to personally, I can have a personal opinion versus a responsibility opinion.
Right.
They can exist in two different forms.
Right, and we're asking as our local officials for there to at least be, and as I said, we can talk about joining the brief. Maybe you don't want to do that cause, but this resolution's already drafted. That won't cost you any money.
And with the group, the resolution, as presented, if it was put on the agenda, states that we as a council will continue to do everything to see that the necessary services. With no public health department of our own, how do we accomplish that?
Well, by supporting the Kern County Health Department, which I think, I know Councilman
So if Kern
Heyman.
County Health Department were to take action, we would similarly want to follow in their steps.
We would support them providing vaccinations and testing in our city. We would not prohibit them from doing so, is what
Or any other actions they may mandate.
Well,
Because without a public health department of our own, how else do we manage it?
I guess at a certain point, if you say, like, if they come forward and say we're rounding people up because they have COVID, then probably, hopefully, you would take a stand against something like that. So when you try to say, like, any action, that's a little too broad. But all I'm saying is I know Dr. Heyman has been on the COVID task force with the county, so we continue to do what we can as a city to facilitate these happening in our city.
But we would have no way to make a guarantee of such in a resolution.
No, I don't say, it says we will continue to do everything that we can. I guess if you want to add a little blurb in there, you can.
I would like to ask that we do not put it on the next agenda by saying it has to be on the next agenda. I would like us to look at it and determine that it be placed as rapidly as we can get the information we need for that, rather than say, you must have it by then, and it doesn't matter whether we've had time to do the full research on it.
Right.
Mayor Bruin, may I interject?
Yes, sir.
I would just caution the council that this is not an agendized discussion item.
Agreed.
Sorry. My apologies.
Agreed. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Wallace Martin. My address is on file as well. I'm a very proud member of the We the People of Ridgecrest organization. I'm here today to call upon all of our elected officials to help ensure that the guaranteed rights of all of our citizens not be usurped here. My message is in direct support of all of your constituents, including teachers, healthcare workers, and students who are now faced with the horrific decision to accept a mandated, non-FDA approved experimental chemical injection into their bodies or lose their jobs. This massive overreach is horrendous. Some say that this is not being forced. I say that if anyone will lose their job and their livelihood if they do not concede, is by definition force. And why is more than half of the population refusing to take this shot, especially doctors and nurses, EMTs, and others in the medical field? The reason is very simple. Many have taken the time to check the official government websites. In addition to official warnings on the vaccinations themselves, as well as reviewing dozens of videos from the patent holders of these vaccines, as well as renowned physicians and researchers worldwide. And probably the most important data that they have is eyewitness, actual patient stories that they see in front of their own eyes every day. This upcoming mandated shot, according to the CDC and the FDA websites, in fact, can be deadly. The latest statistics from VAERS, Vaccine Adverse Effects Recording System, through August the 8th, 21, reports there have been more than 570,000 reports through July the 30th.
Out of curiosity, how does this fall in the jurisdiction of the city? I understand Ms. Stevens did fall within the resolution. We don't have any jurisdiction over a vaccine. I'm curious how this falls in our jurisdiction.
I hope my time has stopped right here.
I'll be happy to restore it. I'll be happy to restore it.
It affects it because what she is proposing.
No, I said our jurisdiction.
Right.
How is it within our jurisdiction?
It's in your jurisdiction to join this other organization that has a lawsuit already in place simply to show support for their thing. It doesn't cost the city anything, sir. I'm well aware of it. And it is in support. The issue here is, well, why would we even have an interest in, well, stopping this or challenging the state or something like that? Here is where the rubber meets the road, sir, is the data that I'm giving you. This is the rubber meets the road. This is why all the DOD employees coming up here very soon, and all the teachers, and all the doctors and people, and students and teachers are panicking right now. This is the reason what I'm giving you. That's the reason.
So the reason that you're saying is, and I'm just trying to make sure I understand, is you have questions with the vaccine, and that's what you're stating on the record.
I'm sorry.
I'll let you go ahead and continue. I just want to understand how this fell within our jurisdiction.
Well, it's within your jurisdiction for that of all of the audience to understand the reason of why all the people here are in a panic over what's about to happen. Okay?
Okay.
All right, here we go. There have been 570,000 reports, 12,000 deaths, 51,000 hospitalization, 16,000 permanently disabled, and more than 4,000 Bell palsy, 6,000 heart attacks. That's reported officially on the VAERS official government website. In addition, in the past years, CDC have stated that vaccine-related side effects are actually less than 1% of the effects actually reported. Well, let's take a look at that for a minute. If that were the case, if you use 1% actually reported, we would have 1,200,000 deaths. And even if you use a conservative 10% non-reporting number, it would be about 120,000 adverse effects in America alone. Worldwide figures are very comparable. Even the official FDA, the huge FDA site, states death as a possible side effect, along with strokes, heart issues, including myocarditis, which is hurting young people everywhere, convulsions, seizures, and even issues with pregnancy. Be advised, everyone, that the government stopped the H1N1 vaccination program in 1976 for being unsafe after less than 30 deaths. Let that process. So now we're asking our medical employees, teachers, students, and possibly the entire DO workforce, including all of our contractors, our number one largest employer on base, could be in the very near future, and probably will be, forced to take this mandated injection or lose their ability to earn a living, of which I remind you, with our job situation in town, if they lose their jobs, where are they going to go? They will leave this town. Your city council, your tax rolls, and everything will be permanently, massively affected. This is wrong at every conceivable level, ethically, morally, legally, and constitutionally. I support Lindsay Stevens' efforts to get a resolution passed protecting the citizens of Ridgecrest. People have the right to choose. Thank you.
Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin?
Yeah.
I'd like to add, I think it falls under our jurisdiction in the sense that if our local constituents feel like they're being unjustly treated or unfairly treated, their first logical step is to take it to their local city government.
So thank you very much, Councilman Heyman. Anyone else?
I was going to say, you cited a lot of numbers there. Did you have like a document or something you could forward?
I can forward to you, but for the public, they're not hidden websites. They're official viewers. Boom, anybody can get it.
I didn't expect
Kyle,
that.
in 4 seconds, but I'll be delighted to send you the ones where I got this number, yes.
Yeah, I just figured it'd be
Yeah,
nice.
absolutely.
If you had it all in one place, that would be handy.
Absolutely. Real quick. Yep, will do. Any other questions? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, yes.
No, I said thank you, sir. Excuse me. Any other public comment? Okay, I was going from the floor, but I'll.
Yeah, I was just letting you know.
Thank you.
Just make sure you saw it.
Appreciate it.
Hello, my name is, can you hear me? Hello, my name is Shirley Kirkpatrick. I normally speak at water issues, but this is important as well. And I'm really concerned about the children. I don't believe children should ever have to be forced to wear masks. And I have an article here by Dr. Barkey. And if anybody's familiar with him, he's part of the frontline doctors, but he explains the dangers and what happens when the children are made to wear masks, where they did tests on the masks and there was all kinds of infections and, of course, scratching their eyes and touching their face. So it's not scientific. The mask is not scientific. And it breaks my heart when I see children having to wear masks. This is kind of interesting. I just pulled this off today. An officer in the U.S. Navy is warning of a full-blown national security threat if the military moves ahead with its planned universal COVID-19 vaccine mandate. In a paper obtained exclusively by Revolver News, I'll just hit a few notes on here. The forced vaccine of all military personnel with the present COVID-19 vaccine may compromise U.S. national security due to the unknown extent of serious vaccine complications, writes Fierman. He's the commander who came forward with this. Further study is needed before committing to the total force to one irreversible experimental group. Initial reports leave more concern for the COVID-19 vaccines than the virus itself. For at present, exceptionally healthy military population. Furman is a career United States naval officer, Navy aviator, and foreign area officer with extensive experience advising senior military, diplomatic, and international organization leadership. The commander has spent years serving, I don't need to go on that. So I hit some points here. This is some points he makes. The average member of the U.S. military is young and is in excellent physical fitness, two categories that are nearly immune to the dangers of COVID. And I would say that with the children. So far, over 24 people out of 2.2 million military personnel have died of COVID-19, a rate of less than 1 per 991,000. There is a reason to believe severe or even fatal side effects from existing COVID-19 vaccines are more common than reported and could even prove deadlier to otherwise healthy servicemen than COVID-19. There is also the outlier possibility that mRNA vaccines, the kind used by Moderna and Pfizer shots, may have unanticipated negative effects on the immune systems of the recipients. Currently, the U.S. military has proven completely capable of weathering COVID-19 without any loss of effectiveness, so forcibly making the entire service a test case for a novel type of vaccine is a pointless risk. So I thought that was kind of relevant to bring that to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment from the floor?
Good evening, Mike Neal. Rare occasion where I agree with Mr. Heyman, but I do with that last statement he just made, so I'd like to point that out and appreciate Mr. Bruin not making a big deal about people clapping, which former mayors have made an unnecessarily big deal about in the past. That's part of our freedom of speech, so part of the discussion. What I'd like to talk about tonight is consistency in messaging by city council members and city staff. Last meeting, I brought up about not having the GA discussion on the agenda, got no response. Later on, it was basically said, well, we can't talk about the water issue. However, all of a sudden this week, the letter proposal by Mr. Heyman to get the water district to finance their part of the replenishment fee goes out on 3 pages on Facebook, goes out on the city Facebook page, goes out on Bruin's Facebook page, and goes out on Mr. Blade's Facebook page. All of a sudden, they could talk about it. Well, I pointed out on the Facebook pages how inconsistent that was. It's basically hypocritical for you to talk about, say you can't talk about it in public meeting, so you don't have to talk about it in front of a bunch of people, and get on Facebook and push Mr. Heyman's agenda for this supposed financing plan. So be consistent. Don't tell us one thing and do something else. And oh, by the way, if you want to support something, I guess you ought to think it through a little better than apparently you have, because guess what? The GA has no plan at the moment. It has not been approved. So tell me what fool would go finance $22 million to pay a portion of a fee that's part of a plan that hasn't even been approved by the state yet? I can't think of any on the Water District Board for sure that would even think about doing that, and I can predict the return you're going to get from them on that in the letter to ask them to do so. And I hope what I think I heard earlier is going to be true, and that we're going to talk about Groundwater Authority water issues at this council meeting, since you have a representative sitting on your council right now, and this is the only meeting between the two agencies that's held at a reasonable time so that people can actually get down here. The GA continues to thumb their nose at the citizens and hold their meetings at 11 o'clock in the middle of the week, 11 o'clock in the morning. So if we can't talk about it here, that's just further throttling of the issue.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment from the floor?
This weekend, I sat horrified with many other citizens, I'm sure, as we watched the unbelievable draconian Nazi behavior of the Australian government against its citizens. If you haven't seen that, I can encourage you to take a look at what's happening over there in light of COVID. People are being fined up to $5,000 if they get out of their bubble, if they leave more than about as far as from here to the other side of Ridgecrest from their homes. The measures instated over there are just something we never, most of us in civilized nations never would have thought could have happened again after World War II. But they're happening today. And this is the reason, Mr. Bruin, that those sitting in our leadership positions need to consider the fact we're not Australia, we're not Germany, we're not Afghanistan. We're America, and we're Americans, and we have a brain, and we have heart, and we've been brought up and trained and nurtured since the founding of this nation to believe in liberty, and that our leaders will cherish that above everything else. I also encourage you to look at a Brown University study that just came out on the 14th. They found that children born during the pandemic, since the end of 2019, early 2020, have actually dropped 22 points in their IQ because of because of this interaction being so stymied and stifled. Is that what we want? When we live in a nation that cherishes liberty, they cherish, being an individual, being able to grow and to learn and to nurture that being outspoken and having your own opinions and all of this. Do we really want to see this continue because those in leadership don't have the backbone or the courage or the foresight to see that this is not about a virus. This is about control. I had COVID last year. I know how I don't want to have it again. But more than that, I don't want to lose my breath, but I don't want to lose my life to draconian measures that a government that thinks that they need to be my God enact upon me, because I have a God that I trust in, and it's not man. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Neal. Just in case you weren't aware, I have a 2-year-old daughter who was born in September of 19. And I happen to strongly agree with your opinion and with probably Brown University's opinion. The unfortunate part is that as leaders, I have to represent an entire community. And that's one of the reasons why I'm asking about percentages and things of those nature. So thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, Council. Scott Miller. My address is on file. Mayor Bruin, I think you may have hit the nail on the head a couple of minutes ago. Ridgecrest does not have its own health department, and we have to go off of, let me rephrase that. We don't have our own health department, and we typically go off of the county's suggestions. That's what they are, suggestions. Perhaps somebody from council can meet with Ms. Stevens' group, not out here. My concern about masks is, you know what? I have one. I actually have about 850 of them, to be exact, because I change them out often. The person that was saying earlier that there's a bunch of diseases that live in the masks, I would like to know how often they're changing that mask. How often are you changing your mask? Are you throwing them away? Are you washing them? Yes, there's all kinds of things we can find out. And data can be made for and against in both ways. And I wouldn't want to be all trying to figure out which ways to go on this, because it's depending on what time and who you're listening to, everything changes. And that's extremely confusing. I work in the food industry, and I work in the travel industry, and I work in the insurance industry. And depending on what day and who I'm listening to, it says I'm supposed to do this. We're talking about kids wearing masks. I am purposefully not using names at this moment, but there is a school in town that has recently closed because of a COVID scare. And there are several classrooms that I'm aware of in another school that is closed. Is it because they're wearing masks or not wearing masks? I don't know. But in the same breath, it's not going to kill you to wear a mask. There's a sign that says in the front that we should all be wearing them right now. And I think I don't see anybody wearing a mask right now, and I don't see anybody social distancing. And you're right. I'm sorry, I'm not going to go there. We do have choices, absolutely. We absolutely have choices, and I'm not going to get into a debate with you. We can go outside and have a discussion if you like. In the same breath, you all have choices, and I have a choice, and that's one of the awesome things about living in this country. However, if your choice impacts me, impacts these guys, impacts my police department, that's where I start having a problem. This is a really crude way to say this. At one point, motorcycle helmets weren't required. They're required now. And there are states that are not required. When someone gets into a motorcycle accident not wearing a helmet, guess where they end up? Their choice was not to wear it. If I happen to work in the medical industry, I don't have a choice. I have to take care of the person who chose to endanger himself and others. So you're right, you have a choice. And I respect that choice. And I will fight to the end for that choice. In the same breath, we have to do what's right as a community, as a family, as community leaders. And that's what I have to say. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, sir. I've been very patient. I've allowed... No, I understand, but I'm not going to continue to allow the outbursts from the floor to the speaker. I did not allow it for Ms. Stevens or for anyone else. I've tried to engage in conversation back and forth. Then stand up, sir, and make public comment.
No.
Sir, that's what I'm trying to say is I have tried to give a freedom of expression here, but talking from the audience to the commenter is not going to continue.
Not everybody may understand the rules, so if you the common rule is if you want to speak, we ask that you just come up to the podium. So that, to the podium because it's recorded and we can all hear you. That's all. So we welcome you to come up and we'd like to hear what you have to say.
Okay, is there any other public comment? Seeing none, I believe we have one on the phone. Call name.
Yes, good evening. Great discussion tonight, everybody. My name is Kathy Brown. I have a few comments to make. Thank you, Mr. Bruin, for bringing order in the court. If someone wants to speak, let them go to the podium. The thing that's concerning me is only when the purporter, when everything was shut down, we had 7 cases per 100,000. 8% positivity rate. Right now, this is Kern County Health Department. I don't think they're lying to the community and everybody. But right now, we are averaging about 237 cases per 100,000. And our positivity rate in Kern County right now, is about 8.2, I believe. Now, if we go to Ridgecrest, right now, Ridgecrest is averaging an 8.19% positivity rate, which was written up in the review paper where the hospital is very, very concerned about the uptick in our cases. The county at large has about 111 Delta cases. About a month ago, we had 3. Right now, the Ridgecrest Hospital is running approximately an 89% capacity. That's very troubling. I know someone that their operation now has been postponed because of the COVID cases in our community. Whether we like it or not, it's reality, scary, and a fact. Right now, Ridgecrest is averaging about 36.79% fully vaccinated people. We've had about 49 new cases in the last 2 weeks. The overall, and this is, county stuff. I'm not making this up. And I would swear I know my county's not going to lie to me, the health people. They're very highly educated people that care about our welfare. The overall county total rate of vaccination is 37.4%. We're kind of below that. Now, if we all get out there and do what we need to do and get up to 70%, we can clear this out. I do agree with Mr. Miller. He made some excellent points about the mask. I mean, it's like putting on your underwear every day. What's the big deal? If you wash them every day, you don't have any germs. Not to get sidelighted here, I do agree with Mr. Whitnick and also Mr. Neal about transparency. We're discussing the GA. It really is important. It would be nice to be on the agenda so there would be interchange and people talking about it because we're all so concerned about it. So I think these are things, that it's not that, someone's taking my right away because I'll be the first person to defend my country and my Constitution. I'm from a military family, so I take it very seriously. And I would just say this, I don't want to go back to shutdown. I want to participate businesses. And we were looking so good in early June. Now, if you go on the county website and look at the charts and the statistics, it's so alarming because it just paints the picture. You'll see we were so low in middle June, and you'll see the bars go up high, and it's sky high now. So, we can't scientifically deny what's going on in this world. All we have to do is look across the country at the other areas where the people are dying, and it's non-vaccinated people. I just hope people believe in science, the beautiful men and women of this world that are going to save mankind as a species. I mean, we eradicated smallpox in 1980 because of that. If we hadn't done that and taken our vaccinations, we'd be walking around blind. We'd be a horrible death. Polio and chickenpox and all these other things. So I would just say I do respect everybody's opinion, but I would say let's just look at the medical facts and protect our people. And I feel sorry for the people down at Walmart. Those little guys have the mask on and people walk in and, you know, it's like Arnold Schwarzenegger said the other night, get with it. You know, why do we have stop signs? You need to stop. You don't have the right because you feel like it to just drive through. It's the same thing here. We've got to protect our community, our country, our world. I mean, the world still is like, what, 1% vaccinated? This is not going away. So I say to everybody, science, education, that is what will save mankind. And I swear, you know, this Delta thing, we're going to get another variant. Because guess what, guys? This is scientific fact. Viruses, they always mutate. They mutate and they mutate. And this has long been known, you know. And I think we all need to just calm our rhetoric down and just respect everything and just come together. And I've said my piece tonight. It's not against any one group in town or any person or anything, but I just, every day, I was so hopeful in June. I took my mask off and I went out in public. I felt so freed. And then all of a sudden, uh-oh, here we go again. So now we're all back to square one. And again, look at the county website. You know, it doesn't lie to us. It's breaking everything down in plain English. And all we have to do, I check it constantly. By the way, it's posted 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Ridgecrest Hospital now is back letting us know what's going on in the community. And I thank you guys for listening.
Thank you, ma'am.
And have a good night. You're welcome. Thank you.
Let me make sure there's no other phone calls or from the floor, and then I'll have the reading one. No more calls. Any other public comment from the floor? Okay, I believe we have one public comment that was sent in.
Yes, Mayor. I received this via email today and was asked to read it at tonight's public comment. It's from Mr. Will Freeman, and his comment goes as follows. Last council meeting on August 4th, the topic of LED streetlights was brought up, and I've subsequently sent a request via email to our Public Works to 1, provide the city's specifications and requirements for LEDs, and 2, provide the make, model numbers for the conventional and LED streetlights currently installed. We are still awaiting a response on this request for information that was made on August 6th and previously on February 8th of 2021. I also want to address the following points to ensure there are not any misconceptions. Number 1, 2,700 kilowatt lights with shields and or diffusers are not darker than the existing standard conventional streetlights that we presently have. Number 2, the fact that perimeter streetlights use a higher power in watts is not the issue with the LEDs. Number 3, the cost of shields, diffusers, or other optical covers for improving optical comfort may be less than 10% of the overall cost. Number 4, some concern was expressed about discussing the current specifications and city plan. It is important to work to get this right and learn from others, such as the city of Davis, that had to replace all LED lights that were too bright, much like our LED street lights, because of the extensive light pollution. Number 5, Mr. Reed indicated part of the current spec, the 3,000 kilowatt unshielded lights, but on July 27th, SCE physically inspected and said they installed 4,000 kilowatt lights. And I hope the K is kilowatts. I'm just assuming. Okay. Are the lights that have been recently installed out of spec? And if so, what is being done to correct this? And number 6, the city spec is for 1 street light per branch street. At Drummond and Arroyo, 2 lights have been installed. Since this is the only branch street like this and is out of spec, what is being done to correct this? The city of Davis reportedly found that their 2,700 kilowatt lights provided about the same light as standard conventional lights, which typically have a roughly 2,100 to 2,300 kilowatt equivalent spectrum. As this is a quality of life issue affecting all residents of Ridgecrest, as well as businesses and laboratories in the area, it's important that both the specifications are made correctly and the actual lights installed meet those specs. This may require some testing, which appears has not yet been done, to determine the appropriate spectrum, presumably 27K or less, wattage, luminescence, beam pattern, and what shields or other optical diffusers covers are needed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Kelvin? Is it Kelvin?
Spectrum. The spectrum is Kelvin's, but
I don't know, it was K.
Oh.
Okay. I stand corrected. Thank you. No, it's good. I don't want to interrupt you. Yeah, good. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll go on and move on to council announcements. Does anyone have any council announcements?
Is this the time to ask questions also for this?
In regards to,
Can I ask a question? Announcements to me would be, there's going to be a meeting on the 6th of February, go to it. Or can I ask questions is what I don't want to violate what Lloyd had said to us.
I would say we would make questions or in mayor or council comments at the end.
All right, thank you.
Any other council announcements?
No, I was just going to say it would be good to, I have how we were, I was even talking with Tom earlier about how we were trained that an agenda should be utilized. It'd be interesting to hear what Lloyd has to say, if you're okay with that, Mr. Mayor.
In regards to?
Just what he thinks council announcements should be used for.
Oh, sure. Lloyd?
Yes, hi. The topic is council announcements.
Yeah, so Lloyd, I was just saying, because I know how we were trained up in Sacramento by lawyers up there on, like, this is how you should conduct an agenda. They even run us through exercises and say, look, this is how you run a meeting. This is what it's supposed to look like. This is when you're making mistakes. But from you specifically, and after having been through a few councils, I think by now, what do you think? What's your?
We're just asking us, should questions and
What's your
those
opinion?
comments
Yeah.
be in council announcements or in mayor and council comments? Is that what the question is?
Yeah. Well, just what does he think?
For this particular agenda, agenda item, council announcements. We're not talking about public comment anymore or future agenda items. We're talking about council comments.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in my experience, it's always about public community events that the council member is involved in, or something that the council member participated in that the council member wants to share with the community. The caution is always to have it become a discussion about a topic that's not been agendized. So, but it's usually community events or something interesting that the council member participated in.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No problem. So my answer to you would be during mayor or council comments.
Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. All items listed on consent are considered to be routine and non-controversial by city staff. Consent items may be approved by one motion if no member of the council or audience wishes to comment or ask questions. If comment or discussion is desired by anyone, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the city council concerning the item before action is taken. I'll now read each item. Item number 1 is the approval of the draft minutes of the Ridgecrest City Council dated August 4th, 2021. Item number 2 is a resolution of the Ridgecrest City Council adopting a revised appropriations limit for fiscal year 2021-2022. 3 is a resolution of the Ridgecrest City Council authorizing the city manager to enter into a memorandum of agreement with Sierra Sands Unified School District for law enforcement services, the School Resource Officer Program. And number 4 is a resolution approving the project list for fiscal year 2021-22 for the California State of Good Repair Program for the following project: electric transit van replacement. Does any member of the council wish for an item to be pulled? Hearing none, does any member of the public wish to have an item pulled? Seeing none, do I have a motion for approval of the consent calendar as presented?
So moved. Oh, sorry, I stepped on Peggy. Second.
I have a motion and second.
Please vote. And 5 ayes, motion carries.
Item number 5 in our discussion action items is a resolution of the Ridgecrest City Council reenacting and adopting position description for wastewater foreman into the classification plan. Mr. Reed.
Good evening, Council. Essentially, what we're looking to do here is establish a clear hierarchy out at the plant. Currently, with the existing positions that are available, we only have one designated supervisor out there. Per our board order, we are required to have a designated operator in charge if our chief plant operator has a medical issue or needs to go on leave for any reason. This position essentially adds another supervisor out there that would fall under direct supervision of the chief plant operator. It designates a clear path of an order of who's in charge if he should leave. It provides us with another level of supervision for disciplinary and increases and things like that, merit stuff. And it essentially fills two huge vacancies that we've had out there, which is one, two supervisors, and a second one, another operator that can be designated as an operator in charge.
Okay.
Multitasking. I'm listening to you and watching at the same time.
And actually, just for the sake of your discussion, we'll go ahead and pause until the process is completed. I'll close the doors here in a second if I need to. I don't think you've ever won a right to speak up. If they're circling around, then I'll close the chamber doors. Yeah, that would have been useful.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they're circling, I'm going to ask the chief to.
I don't think they are.
Huh? I don't think they are. That's why I'm respectfully granting them the opportunity to.
Do we need to call like an official pause to the meeting? Legally?
No, the door is just open. Now we can go ahead and proceed. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Reed.
So as I was saying, it just gives us another level of supervision, fulfills a board requirement for us, offers us a better plan for succession. And with what we're currently doing, we're currently pushing all of our OITs and operators to pursue their officer certificates. What we would not want to see happen is we get everybody to a grade 2 and not have a clear hierarchy of order for how things are going to proceed for succession and also for supervision of daily tasks.
Okay.
And I am open to questions.
Any council questions?
What are we doing right now as we exist as these issues? I'm sorry, I have difficulty talking. What are these issues as they come up? How are we handling the situation as it is?
Currently, we have one supervisor out there, so any issues that comes up, he would handle himself. So by doing this, if he is ever gone, as you know, we work a 410 schedule, so there are days, but on our 410 schedule, the plant doesn't stop. So there are days that there's an operator there that is not quote-unquote a supervisor. So this gives us a little bit more leeway of who is going to be supervision of all the other employees that are currently working there.
Thank you.
It seems like, and so I'm just looking through here, just comment off the cuff that you're more of a comment. You're just attempting to create a succession plan, even into our new plant.
Correct.
Right. So just setting us up for success in the future.
I 100% would agree with that statement. We are establishing a clear hierarchy for if and when our chief plant operator decides to step out and enjoy retirement. And it just, like you said, it offers a clear hierarchy and an order of staff. So there is no question about who is the next, I wouldn't say next for chief plant operator, but the next operator that is going to be in charge of the plant should that person need to take an extended leave of income.
Yeah, I would hope the new plant isn't as difficult to run as this one, where these guys got to run around doing the amount of work they do. When I visited that plant, I know a lot of you guys just haven't because you don't have access on the base, but when I visited that plant, it was, these guys were running around, like, having to repair everything. So, I mean, there were circuit boards and rewiring things and running hoses. It was a mess.
Jim runs a tight ship. There's a lot of active maintenance that they do out there. But the operators are becoming a very hot commodity, for lack of a better term. Tough to keep, tough to find. So this just offers us another way of hopefully helping to retain some staff and also aiding in our plans for the future for keeping operators for the new plant.
And for recruiting in the future as well.
Absolutely.
And can we mention briefly how, I mean, because we have an approved budget where we're at, right? Can we mention briefly how we're going to pay for it? It's in the staff report, but the people, I mean, not everybody sees
the staff report. It's a fiscal impact out of the wastewater enterprise fund of about a total of $21,662.47. We are not proposing to increase staff levels out at the wastewater plant. We are simply proposing to move staff around within, so that way we establish this hierarchy, we fulfill some of our requirements for our board order, and we basically, it sets a clear path for if Jim wants to take, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be using names, our chief plant operator wants to take a vacation, our wastewater foreman cannot also be on vacation at the same time, because that is who our plant operator, designated plant operator is.
Right.
So
and that's important for Department of Water Resources. That's the key. It
Correct.
keeps us in compliance with Department of Water Resources.
Correct.
I have maybe one more thing. It's not specifically for, I know you're the staff on the line, but I would like to hear the city manager's opinion on this specific item. Just your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think it's for a couple reasons that we're going this direction. One, we do not have a second command out there, so when the plant operator is on extended leave or on vacation, we have to pay one of the employees out of class pay to sit in for that position. So by having a foreman, we do have somebody that can step up, help out Jim, that can be there during the off days if we need to. Probably frankly, when we do our cost study, that part of the new plant analysis is going to be what sort of personnel do we need to be able to run the plant. And I think that regardless of where we go, we should have had a second command or foreman, another supervisor out there the entire time. You know, we have expanded our sewer inspection. We did hire a couple of additional folks that are going to be making sure that our pretreatment standards are going to be upheld, that all of the stuff outside the gate is dealt with. So really, the plant operator span of control is really too large for some of the items that are being looked after at the plant. So having another person in charge, they can run the plant while Jim runs or the plant operator deals with other issues. So it just allows for a more smoother operation where we have somebody else that can basically tell somebody what to do, other than just being designated the person in charge. We're really not being fair to that employee.
Right. Thank you. No further comments.
Any other council comments? Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Reed, how is the fiscal impact only 21,662? When we are paying 4,700 per month to step one.
Because with the order of how we would do things, the only operator two, we only have one operator two, and if you read the job description in there, it's required to be at least an operator two, because you have to be You can only be one step behind what the designated plant operator is in order to be a designated operator for DWR. So currently, we have only, I think we have 2 1s, 1, 2, and then our chief plant operator, who is a 3. So with that, with the step that our current 2 is versus where he would be going to take this foreman position, become a supervisor, and stuff like that, the impact, physical impact is only the $21,000.
I still didn't get it. So you are going to have operator 1 and 2, right?
We're still going to have those same positions. All we're doing is enacting another position and moving from within, so that way we establish another supervisor out there at the plant. So we're not adding personnel. We're just moving personnel around.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Rajaratnam, we have been adding staffing out there because 4 years ago, the plant we had some serious issues, and we currently have serious issues out there. When we do our staffing study on the new plant, we're probably going to be hiring more staff to be able to run the plant because it's going to be more complex and there's going to be more processes. So we have to be able to retain what we currently have, because if we continue to lose staff and if we don't have the proper supervision, somebody has to run that plant. That's not an option. It's a must. It runs 24/7. There's stuff flows in there 24/7. We have to be able to develop a structure to where we can retain and run that operation the proper way. This has been something that staff's been working on for 4 years. I would anticipate within the next couple of years, we're going to be building a new plant. We're going to have a cost allocation study. We're going to have a staffing study. And we're going to have to staff it appropriately and probably pay it appropriately if we want to be able to have a functional wastewater treatment facility. And that's pretty much where we're at.
But if I look at the staff report, proposed staffing, you are adding 1 position there, right?
We're not adding a
position.
We're upgrading a position. You're taking a wastewater 2 operator and we're making them a foreman.
Yeah,
we're
so
not adding a position.
We're adding the position title, but we're not adding any more personnel. No new bodies are getting added to the staffing right now. So we're just adding another classification to be able to have people in different spots within the wastewater division.
Okay.
We're just taking the person that's normally our second in command and actually making them our second in command.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably the layman's way to say it. There you go.
Okay.
We should be paying this guy to be a foreman because he's been acting like a foreman.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I think I just got most of my questions answered. One, I was wanting to know if it was going to be an in-house position versus, looking for someone out in the public sector. Secondly, and I think city manager addressed it, I wanted to know if it was going to interfere with the employee compensation issues and addressing those issues in the future. But from what you described and what you had just mentioned is that we're going to iron those things out at a later date, and that I would see that as, if we're moving one person into more supervisory position, then we're going to need to replace that person, an employee down the chain, to maintain the level of,
We're pushing to have all of our OITs, which one of them just did recently pass his test to become an operator 1, and we're already pushing him to go take to start doing the book for the operator 2. So we want to push all of our operators to the operator 2 position at a minimum.
Okay.
So we're trying to make sure we have the staff available from within to fill any role that we need should we have a vacancy come over.
Okay.
The issue we may have in the future is if we do tertiary advanced treatment, we may have to have a level 4.
Correct.
And so we'll have to, there are ways of working that out where you can contract that position in. But currently, the design of the plant that we're looking at is a secondary plant, which would then be able to be covered by our current staffing levels that we have. We just need to eventually, when the plant manager retires, we're going to have to find another level 3 to be able to run the plant. Mm-hmm. So this sets us up in a position to where we should have caught this during the budget to address this issue. So, and we have been, like I said, we have been bringing additional staff on board because we've been way behind in our pretreatment standards and the quality of sewage that's coming to the plant. And Lahontan and these regulatory agencies are requiring us to begin to pay attention. We have to document this stuff. And so this is all part of the process of us getting back into compliance with all the regulations as we begin to build the new plant.
Okay. And it won't interfere with our work down the road with the employee compensation aspect and issues?
No, that's
within
going to
the
be
wastewater management.
Right, that's going to be part of the study to figure out, what staffing we need, what we should be paying.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And that won't happen until the wastewater facility's in place. And
Right,
then
correct.
We can do a cost study.
I'm glad to hear
That's
that.
That's part of the cost allocation studies to figure out what we should be paying the staff and what type of staff we should have.
Perfect. Thank you. And yeah, I'm in favor of, bringing the position into play. It's a good idea.
We're shoring up our succession at a critical resource.
And I will say this, too, that with how active our chief plant operator has been at pushing our OITs to become licensed, we did recently just have one that passed his test, and now any of the overtime opportunities that come available, he's already made it widely apparent that he wants all the overtime he can get because he wants to get his license. He wants to be a 1. So we have some very bright minds and sharp people that are working under our chief plant operator and our operator, too, right now, and the future does look good for us. We just need to make sure that we can retain them and supervise, and they get the training and the nurturement they need to learn the ropes and be able to run the plant eventually one day.
Okay. Any public discussion? Okay, hearing none. Bring it back to the council. Any other comments? Do I have a motion for approval of the resolution?
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second.
Please vote.
Maybe.
It
It might be.
This is the third
Yeah.
time I heard this.
Okay, we got it.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you very much. I don't think you're moving, are you?
No, sir.
Next item on the agenda is item number 6, is a resolution to approve a professional services agreement with Wood End Engineering in the amount of $53,947.27 for preliminary engineering services for West Ward Avenue 2 project between North Down Streets and North Norma Street, and authorize the city manager, Ron Strand, to execute the agreement. Mr. Reed.
So what you're looking at is the second phase of our Ward Avenue restoration project. We are looking to apply for grant funding for RSTP for our second phase. We're trying to have a shovel-ready project, so that way if grant funding does come available from the first phase of Ward's time frame, that we have a project that would be viable to maybe push this project up. So we are asking to allow Wildan to help us with providing design services, environmental, some surveying services, and the design of that package, which we were going to pay for out of Measure V. So that way, if funding does come available prior to the next round of RSTP funding, we have a viable project and have a chance of moving it forward on the list.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Begin with any council comments? Any council comments?
No, not with this one.
Okay, any public comments?
Evening, Council. Scott Miller. What was Project 1?
It was the other,
So
go ahead.
Project 1 is one that's currently approved on the RSTP, which we are just about ready to go out to bid for. And it is from China Lake Boulevard to Norma on Ward Avenue. And Phase 2 is from Norma to Downs.
So it's, okay. So the current project that's happening on Ward, and then once that's complete, then this is going to be Phase 2 of what's been done now. So wasn't Ward done like 4 or 5 years ago also?
No, that was Drummond.
No, that was Ward. There was somebody on Ward filling in cracks with some machine. I lived there, and they parked the machine, and I couldn't get in my driveway.
You know, it could have been Water District patching. I know as far as for surface preparation on our end, if there's anything we've done, it's the minor crack filling, things like that, but we haven't done any resurfacing on Ward in the last 5 years as far as city is concerned.
So this is going to be resurfacing then?
This will be a complete resurface of Ward.
Okay, thank you.
So.
Yeah, we get beat up on Ward.
We got beat up on Ward pretty bad the other day.
Yeah. Sometimes I look like I'm like Ward Street.
Any other public comments? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to council. Any additional council comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion for approval of the resolution as presented?
So moved.
Is there a motion? Second?
Please vote. Five ayes, motion carries.
Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda is item number 7. This is discussion and action to reorganize council committee assignments. This has Ms. Charlon's name on it, but I was the one that requested it. It's just via minute motion, and this is to reassign Ms. Breeden from the Infrastructure Committee, and Mr. Rajaratnam will be taking her place on the Infrastructure Committee. This was at her request for personal reasons. I don't think there's a whole lot of discussion necessary. It's just reassigning. Okay?
None needed?
Is there any public, any council discussion? None?
No, I mean, now that we're here, everybody's good with their committee assignments. Is there anything we need to discuss?
My personal reasons really were business related. I've had some changes in my work schedule, and so it's not that personal, but I don't like working with you, sir.
I'm right here, Peggy. I mean, if you don't want to be...
Okay, I'll tell you the truth is.
If you don't want to be on my committee, that's okay.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And Solomon, thank you.
Solomon doesn't want to be
there. Now Solomon's out, great. Okay.
And Scott, you don't get to step off.
Yeah, Scott,
you're stuck with that GA spot.
I'm good.
Okay. Any public comment? Hearing none, do I have, does this require a minute motion?
It'll be an informal minute motion, yeah. We'll take a small vote, but
okay.
We do need a first and a second. Not
okay.
an official one, Mr. Reed. I heard that.
Yeah, that's why I was just double checking. I don't think, for committee assignments, there's not a reassessment of voting.
But it's just a motion to approve.
Just a motion to approve,
So-
yeah.
so moved.
And all
So moved.
ayes, and we're good. Yes.
Aye.
It's an
And a second?
unofficial, small.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
All in favor? That's what I meant to say.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. We're good? Okay. Thank you.
I'm just making sure we follow the prescribed action.
You are good, Mayor.
Number 8 is a resolution of the Ridgecrest City Council approving a purchase and land sale agreement with Carlos Estrada for parcel located on Boston Avenue, APN 081-33236. Ms. Spurlock.
Good evening. So this property was deemed surplus to the city's needs in March. A notice of availability was circulated to public agencies and housing sponsors. No interested parties had contacted us, and so at that point the property was listed. We have received an offer from a private party for $8,000, which is fair market value. The property is a vacant parcel located on Boston Avenue, and it is zoned a residential mobile home. So staff is asking that you approve the resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the purchase and sale agreement.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there any council discussion?
No, just more of a comment. This is some of the last of that property you've been trying to offload, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, there's not much to talk about. I appreciate you going out and doing work. Thank you.
Yeah, this is just a house cleaning item. These are excess properties that the city really should be holding on to. We've identified what properties the city needs to retain for future parks and development. These properties have been clearly identified as excess.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Any other council comments? Hearing none. Any public comments?
Tom Mechnick, hope this isn't out of line, but just a real quick question as far as surplus properties. I don't have a problem with what you're doing here. Can I just ask, what have we done with the buildings on Silent Lake Boulevard that Waste Management was using for a while?
Are you meaning the former Matrix building?
Yeah.
It also was classified surplus and is currently listed.
They are listed for sale?
That was we put it listed as last action.
Yeah. Yes, it
last
is.
public action.
Okay, so they're out for potential sale then?
Yes, they are.
Okay, just wondered.
Yeah, Mr. Wicknick, we do believe we have purchasers for that property.
Oh, great.
So that'll be at a future
meeting.
Future meeting.
Okay, any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll bring it back to council. Any other council comments? Hearing none. Do I have a motion for approval of resolution number 8 for the sale and agreement with Carlos Estrada?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Please vote. Five ayes, motion carries.
Next item is item number 9. This is approval of the Police Employee Association of Ridgecrest Memorandum of Understanding and Mid-Management and Confidential Compensation Agreements. City Manager Strand.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council. What I have before you on item number 9 is 2 resolutions. One resolution approving a memorandum of understandings between the City of Ridgecrest and the Police Employees Association of Ridgecrest, and a second resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a compensation plan with our mid-management and confidential employee groups. Both groups, well, the police officers haven't seen a cost of living raise since 2008, nor have we seen a increase in their medical benefits since 2004. As you know, beginning in 2011, with the Great Recession and the loss of the redevelopment agency with the City of Ridgecrest, we saw a significant cut in the city's budget. The city has struggled over the last several years to come to a place to where we have a balanced budget. We have lean staffing. We've done a really good job of still providing full services to the community, even though we've not been able to provide any sort of extra compensation through a cost of living raise to any of our workforce. This would extend to the confidential mid-management. They have not received a cost of living since 2006. One of the things that we've noticed is that because we've seen no increase in what the city provides towards the employees in medical since 2004, which would be nearly 17 years, we have some employees that are going out of pocket on their insurance premiums anywhere between $400 and $1,200 a month. Some of these employees are just above minimum wage. Most of them are making low to mid $20 an hour salaries. So this is a significant cost to our employees, and it's making it very difficult for us to recruit and retain qualified staff for both the police department and the city. So one of the things that when we were going over our salary survey for the city and seeing where our employees were at competitively with other similar cities within our area, during that process, we polled our staffs, and one of the top 3 things that they talked about was providing more funding towards the medical. So the city does have a very limited amount of money that we can put towards the employees. And so staff met with both the Police Employees Association and Mid-Management and Confidential, and the primary thrust of that was to try and provide more compensation towards the employees that take city insurance. So what we're looking at is an increase of all the employees of about $152 per month for a single employee, $308 for an employee plus one, and then $400 for an employee plus family. So it brings the total of the city provided funding of $727 for the employee, $1,046 for the employee plus one, and then $1,336 for employee plus family. One of the things that the city clerk, Rika, and our HR staff, Trish, did was they took a look at our plans that we have through PERS. And we noticed that one of the plans had just the basic plan, had very little doctor access within our community. So they reached out to the hospital as well as some of the other medical groups and worked with PERS, and were able to get our local doctors to accept our basic plan. So with this, we should be able to have our employees have access to the basic insurance plan. It's not a great plan, but a basic insurance plan at a very little cost out of pocket. And so we're trying to close that gap, because we found it very difficult to retain people, because some folks are just 100% medical paid from the entity, and so we have our employees that are going out of pocket. So we're proposing that we have this increase to the employees, both, the MOU, the police officers have agreed. Going more in particular to the MOU with the police, we've added a couple other items to the MOU. One is increasing our field training officer pay while in training from 2.5% to 10%. Another is officer in charge pay for 5% while performing the duty. We have for several years had officer in charge, which is the officers that we just placed in charge, and we didn't compensate them for that extra responsibility that they had. We're also proposing to increase the degree and certificate incentive pay from a maximum of 12.5% to 17.5%. This contract has no cost of living increase associated with it, and the term of agreement is from July 1 of 21 until June 30th of 22. And going to the compensation plan with the mid-management group, it will be the same medical benefit for that group also, but we also looked at adding a 2.5% longevity pay for employees after 20 years, as well as an increase in administrative leave cash out, or a deferment into their retirement plan, the 457B retirement plan. Currently allowed to either cash out or defer 90 hours. We're going to increase that, or recommend increase to 120 hours per year. Now, the mid-management employees do not receive overtime, so when they're required to work extra hours, they're not compensated for it. It's just part of their position. So the administrative leave helps make up for that time that they spend extra. Like Ricka here at City Council, she's here the whole day, and now she's here for 3-4 hours at night. She doesn't get any extra pay for the time because she's a salaried employee. The term of that agreement will also be for 1 year, and they are also not receiving a cost of living raise. Confidential employee group is the same medical. We're also recommending that they receive a 2.5% longevity pay after 20 years. Currently, none of the confidential mid-management groups receive that, while the UFCW and PAIR does. Also allow the employees to defer up to 20 hours of vacation per year into their 457 retirement plan, and to allow them that if they engage in the educational incentive plan with the city, that if they receive their bachelor's or master's degree, they can receive the 10% incentive pay, whereas right now the language says that if you just obtain your bachelor's or master's, that you only get 5%, so you have to go in a certain order. You'd have to do your AA first and then your BA to receive it, so it's more just cleanup. That group also is not looking at a cost of living raise, and the term of the agreement is 1 year. I will be frank that this is a step in the right direction that we need to go as a city. We do need to fill this gap. Not allowing a cost of living increase for up anywhere between 17 and 15 years provides a significant gap between us and most of the people that work on the installation, work in town, or anybody that we're competing with in the job market. I will tell you that your department heads are probably some of the lowest paid in the county, especially your chief of police. So we need to find a way of compensating our workforce just for the benefit of being able to retain and recruit qualified people to be able to run the city. So with that, if you have any questions, I'll be more than willing to answer.
No questions for me. That was a pretty thorough report.
Solomon? No. I'll let Peggy go.
Long overdue and much needed.
Doc?
So I'm really pleased and happy to see us be able to be looking at this tonight. I know that our city manager, Ron Strand, and our finance, Sheree and Kelly and Trish and HR, Rika, everybody's worked really hard to put this together, and it's a definite positive step in the right direction. So I commend everybody for your hard work. It's paying off, and we'll keep plugging along. We'll be like a dog on a bone on this. So thank you.
Doc comes out with the dog on the bone. I like it. This is just first step. That's the biggest thing I want the city staff to hear and the city to hear, because this is the first of several patches we think need to be done that salary schedule showed us, and we're working to make the corrections. The problem is a lot of people think it happens, and it doesn't. I think I walked in this office 7 months ago and said, what's it going to take to get this done? And it's August. I'm thrilled we had to get to another fiscal year to get to that point where we could be able to assess that, but I'm very happy to be able to show the staff that we are making progress, as well as for our officers. The city citizens need to understand just how difficult it is to ensure the quality of people we need to make sure we have the best possible city. And it starts with your staff, not with your facilities or with your other things. It starts with your staff, and they have been extraordinarily loyal and good to us and members of this community. And I'm happy to be able to see something move forward for them. Okay, any public comment?
Hi again, Scott Miller, Ridgecrest.
Let me thank you for staying throughout the entire meeting.
Say again?
Let me thank you for staying through the entire meeting.
Mr. Strand, do we have an approximate dollar amount? And before you answer that, I am the first to say strong supporter of law enforcement, the strong supporter of city government. You mentioned the first part of your presentation, it was a limited amount. I'm just curious, in my opinion, whatever it is, it's not enough. However, it's a good start. I'm just curious to know if we have a approximate dollar amount. I know that's going to vary.
Yes, I do. It is a range, and it's primarily because of the medical. We're looking anywhere between about $274,000 and $351,000.
Okay.
Now, go ahead.
Would that be retroactive, or would that be from?
It'd be from July 1st.
July 1st forward, so nothing
Correct.
backwards. Okay,
Right.
Perfect. Thank you for your help.
And was already factored into the fiscal year 22 budget. Yes, sir.
That's a good question.
Oh, good question. Any other public comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll bring it back to council. Any other council comments? Do I have a motion for approval of the MOU and mid-management confidential compensation agreements?
So moved.
Should we all do it simultaneously, for all five of us? Yes. 1, 2, 3. So moved. There you go. Kyle's not going to be part of the group.
Second. Please vote.
It's not a full solution, guys, but it's something.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, next item on the agenda is committee reports. Finance. Finance met on Monday.
Sorry.
Thanks, Rika.
You're welcome. Sorry.
Now we know why you're here all day. Just teasing. Trying to keep it light. Today's been hard enough as it is. Finance Committee met on Monday. Best thing I can tell you is that we are still finishing out fiscal year 21, budgetary stuff, and the numbers are much better than we expected. Sales tax and Measure V revenues were at the highest they've been in 4 years in the months of, I believe it was May. And we think that's largely based on, again, continued stimulus dollars, but also people going back to regular life. And I've asked for us to monitor in the future on what the impact is of the reconstruction. on the number of additional people that are doing basic consumer shopping inside the community. So not a huge other things to report other than the numbers were looking good, and we're making progress. Do you have anything else to add?
Not much. Just to confirm that in almost all areas we are projected to be at or better than we were last year. A couple areas might be a little bit lower, but considering everything considered with COVID, we are, I think, coming out quite well. So
there was another finance number I forgot that I was going to bring up during this part, which was let me just steal this. There's one number here that I had, which is, just want to again give scope for the public that goes back and looks at this. Fiscal year 21 general fund revenue, 17% of our general fund revenue comes from property taxes. And a lot of people, they always say property tax, property tax, property tax. We're working really hard, obviously, to grow, but I wanted to point out a number, if you hadn't seen, which is we've seen about a $32,000 increase in the average home sale price over the last 12 months. And that will have some trickle-down impacts in property taxes over time, and that's great to see. We're also predicting about a 4% continued increase in home value over the next 12 months. So, I guess I just want to make sure the public understands there is an increase in flow, but it is still much, much smaller. You can say, well, house prices went through the roof. They went up $40,000. You're supposed to be making all this money. Well, it only represents 17% of our total budget. So it doesn't make the same impact that we would hope it would. It's small, and it's something, but it's just not as big and as broad as we would hope. And I guess that was what the one thing that came out of finance that I was always trying to make sure people know is how the property tax really impacts or doesn't impact. Any other comments, finance?
No, I would just add to it, was a question I had during finance, was that, with all the current building and new stuff we're seeing, that some of those revenues won't show until, we say, 23, basically. So that's good news for in the near future.
Yeah. And that sales tax revenue that will show up in 23, those are all things that will help us continue to be able to move the budget forward, but it's still not as, it's still a thin budget. Next was infrastructure.
So infrastructure meets the 26th. That's next Thursday. We hope to see that discussion on lights. Okay. Roger that. Economic development's next.
Yep.
So that's. We did meet. That was on August the 11th. We talked just a little bit about ICSC, the conference. That wasn't much to talk about. We want to come up with a strategy. We will come up with a strategy. We were hoping to use metrics to do that. Mr. Roger Rottenham brought up some very valid points about some discrepancies in the metrics. So we need to go back to the market analytics. So we're going to go back to the grindstone on that.
City Org will be meeting for the first time next month, and that'll be on the first Monday. Parks and Rec, we already met this month and already reported, didn't we? Because that was before the last meeting. Yeah, it was already done. And RACVB is tomorrow morning, or was this morning, correct, Megan?
Well, she's on her way up here, Mayor? Because you guys are always, I'm not sure if I've reported on the committee or we haven't met or whatever, I'd like to propose that maybe I break them up with 3 meetings the first, 3 reports the first meeting and then 3 reports the second meeting. Because that way you know you've already met and you haven't reported yet. And it coincides with when the meetings are and when our meetings are, so nobody's going to get missed. Would you guys have a problem if I put, say, infrastructure, city org, quality of life on the first meeting of the month, and then finance and economic development and RACVB on the second meeting? That way you know you have to report then and you've already met. And you're not going, did I report?
Certainly would help.
It'll help.
Helps me not look like I'm, oh yeah, did we?
Yeah.
That would be great.
So if you're okay and there's less on there next
Anything
time,
that
you'll know
makes,
why.
I take enough abuse as is. Let's go. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm all for that.
I will change it on the next meeting. Thank you.
Hello, I just have a few things for you for the RACVB committee report. For the California Welcome Center, the construction's on track, the walls have gone up, and the ceiling is going to be replaced, so that should be all up to code for earthquake resiliency, which will be great. So that's just moving along just good. They're projecting to move into the building in October, with the grand opening still slated for November. So that's really their main focus right now at the RACVB, is just all hands on that Welcome Center, getting it ready to open in November. So in regards to their marketing, they're also, again, focusing primarily on the Welcome Center. They're going to probably begin promoting that Welcome Center opening a month prior to November, so October timeframe. And for their other promotional materials, they're collaborating with DBR for things like brochures and other materials that will be distributed to Welcome Centers in the area as well. So for the STR report, as I mentioned at the last report, the per diem rate change we have seen a positive impact on revenue due to that. And just a little bit of numbers, the occupancy for the month of July is at 61.6%. And the ADR was 118.02. So that's it for the STR report. Filming, just a few things. They had 5 days filming in July, and they have 5 inquiries, 4 new ones for the month of August. There will be 2 networking events that RACVB will be attending in September. The IPW Travel Trade Show from September 18th to September 22nd. And a precursor to that is the Cup, which is another networking event / golf tournament. That will be from the 15th to the 18th. In the past, they haven't attended these because we didn't really have so much of a base, but with the California Welcome Center and the potential to offer tours and things like that, they think it's going to be a good opportunity for networking. So they'll be attending those in September. And then the last thing I had to add was just a note on the DP4 races. They will be having their next race. It's a night race on the 28th of August, and anybody who's interested in registering can go to dp4racing.com to sign up. So just a little. If anybody has any questions or comments.
No questions here.
You don't have any?
Thank you.
Thank you. Other committees, boards, or commissions?
I was supposed to have Kern Cog tomorrow. It's been canceled. And then after that, BLM Roundtable Saturday.
Yeah, that's this Saturday, right?
Mm-hmm.
At the museum.
This coming up Saturday. Well, no, this time it'll be out at the Wildboro Reserve. That's how I like to spend my Saturdays. I always joke about it, but to be honest, the meetings are always very beneficial. I enjoy them. I get a lot out of them. Some of the things that come up consistently is the BLM is always like wanting to partner with us and the Friends of Jawbone to get something done for UTVs, and a lot of people are doing razors these days. It's just I don't want to say it's a bridge too far, but it's something to work on.
It's a bridge to be looked at.
Indeed.
Yeah. Any other committees, boards, or commissions? Okay. City manager report.
Yes, just one item. Megan and I have been working with HF&H, our solid waste consultant. As you know, that in December, our contract expires with Waste Management, and at the same time, beginning January of 22, SB 1383 is effective. That is mandatory organics. We are working with our consultant to figure out how we can roll this program out with the least amount of impact to the community, but there are some things that we have to do. Organics has to be mandatory within your community for everybody, so that's going to be a change. So how we roll that out with trash and recycling is the issue of how we can save some funding, whether or not we can do our trash pickup every other week instead of every week. So we're working with the county to see if we can find a way of allowing that to occur. I've discussed this with other city managers within the county. They all agree we'd like to be able to move forward as a county and be able to offer that as an option, but we're more likely going to have some sort of enforcement mechanism with the trash. It can either be through waste management or the city. More likely, the city is going to have to participate in that. So we will be getting more information out to the community and the council as things progress. But we are moving forward. It is something that is not optional. We have to make it happen. So we're going to be looking at that agreement with waste management. Then we'll have to do some subsequent updates on our ordinances to be in compliance with Cal Recycle. So our position is to be able to do everything we can to be able to be in compliance with Cal Recycle, compliance with SB 1383 at the lowest cost we can probably get it at. And so that's the position we're taking. So just want to give you an update on that.
Thank you, sir. Next is mayor and council comments. We'll go.
Future agenda items.
I'm going to let you,
Future agenda.
Future agenda items. I have one item coming up that we're already working on. This would be the appropriate arena to discuss whether the public comment resolution that was presented should be considered in a future agenda item, or if a council member requests it to be presented in a future agenda item for discussion.
So I'll take off from there. I would like to propose that we do bring that discussion of the proposed city council resolution before us on our next council meeting. No doubt there is a lot of questions, a lot of discussion that could have taken place tonight that we all had to kind of sit back and not partake in, under advice of our legal team and the orderly fashion of how council meetings are ran. So I would like to do that. I'd also like to propose that we bring the GA discussion back on board. I'd like to go back to the every other meeting. That seemed to work pretty reasonable. And if we put it on for next council, I'll give an update and on kind of where things are sitting with the GA and try to bring us all up to speed on that. Let's see.
Scott, I was going to ask, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
This is for the whole council, I suppose, but with that GA, so why not have it down in the committee section as another committee section? I mean, we as a council can't take any action. We can discuss, of course, sure, we can discuss till the cows come home, but we can't take any action. We can't give direction.
When you say committee,
so when we give committees, I mean, why wouldn't Groundwater Authority just be another committee reporting?
Yeah,
and then we can still ask you questions, like I ask you guys questions, Finance, Parks and Rec.
Would we then form a committee and have meetings?
No,
No,
I think it's just in that section. Other committees.
He's simply saying,
I see where you're going. Okay.
Right, right. And that way, every time it comes up, it's no different than the rest of us reporting on the stuff. Because it was explained to me even when I was on Planning Commission, I asked somebody, what is the point for us always bringing it up here? And they go, well, let me tell you, because all of us are so spread thin that we end up having to come back and just brief everybody on what they missed as a city council. So that seems to fit there, but I'm just asking your opinion.
Well, I'm kind of liking that, and so as Rika had proposed earlier, putting it in at a timing it in with when the meetings occur and when the next council meeting is at.
First meeting of every month.
Well, this is the discussion between agendizing. Agendizing means that it's agendized, public comment, everything else. And I'm not saying that that's not appropriate. I'm simply saying that what Mr. Blade's position is, and I happen to agree with him, is that we can't give you specific direction, and so therefore a discussion and direction is different than a reporting.
So I understand that, but how does that parlay over to public comment and the open discussion with the public? Can they still?
Yeah, they can still make public comment because it's not an agendized item. It's a commission.
Do you guys generally take public comment during committee reports? You don't?
No, that's what I'm saying. It kind of falls out of that.
Right. Public comment at the beginning of the meeting.
Well, I wasn't seeking to stifle public comment by any way, shape, or form.
So I think
I understand, but that thought crossed my mind at this point now. It's like, okay, well, then how does that work with
I think we should leave it where it is. Except don't say it as discussion or guidance. So instead of saying
Guidance like it was
just a
before.
report.
I mean, it's really just a discussion. I guess put it up on the agenda and just say it's a discussion item.
Yeah, that's what it was before, as a discussion item. And
It used to say guidance, so we are not giving any.
the hard part is I want to present a different perspective that you may not. And my personal opinion is, let's just say we have something that a member of the public does want to address in regards to water. They're going to wait for that item to come up on the agenda because it's now part of the agenda. Whereas right now, if it's in commissions and other reports, they don't have to, they can make a public comment in regards to water at that time if they should wish. You're going to push the time for public comment much further into the evening, depending on where that item is in the agenda. And I'm not being facetious. I'm trying to be very real with the public. Is let's say that was item number 9 tonight. It wouldn't have been coming up for discussion until we got through all other business, and that may be difficult for some people to participate. Versus at the front, they have the opportunity for public comment. That's just.
I'm not as concerned about the timing of it within the meeting. The public wants to have it. It's made clear that they like the evening format. So I mean, so if that, if it's in the beginning or in the end, anyone who's here for a certain agenda item is going to want it in the beginning, or but I don't know that we can get too carried away cherry picking the wins of it. As long as it's on the evening agenda item, we do it. I like to go back to doing it just the every other
and
meeting
on the agenda of the discussion item.
So, Mr. Hammond, you're asking us to put it back on as a discussion item, only not discussion direction, just a discussion regarding.
That's what I asked, and I guess now I'm asking, how does the rest of the council and yourself and public comment?
Yeah, no, I guess that's true. That's a good point.
But I like the idea.
I've been frustrated ever since I've been on the council, not with anybody here, just that I hate that it's on there. We get to look at it. People provide comment. We get to do nothing about it. It's always been a point of frustration for me, and maybe that's just misplaced frustration. But I'm just always like,
sit in my seat.
and to be clear, I'm not debating against you guys. I'm simply trying to look at it from a public opportunity perspective. Let's say this was the item right now. It's 7:52 at night. We're going to actually see a decrease if they're very adamant to come out and speak to you on it, that's fine. But if it's agendized, then it's not going to be in public comment.
I would like to ask a question. If we do it as an agenda item, people understand that it's discussion. My concern is that because of the litigation that's going on, there are many items that people will ask questions on regarding the litigation, and are they going to be happy with, I'm sorry, we can't discuss that part of it? No, they're not. The question is a legitimate question, whether it's litigation or just procedure or what's happening, for us to be able to say, I'm sorry, we can't answer that. It is part of litigation. If people understand that we're not going to discuss every single item that is part of closed session, nor part of litigation, but we'll simply talk about the GA and the progress and what's happening, can people accept that as an agenda item?
Well, there is a concern. You do know that the Water District filed a cross complaint for full adjudication. Last night, Searles Valley filed for a full adjudication. And the city is part of that litigation, whereas they want to affect our water rights as a city to be able to water our parks. So we may be affected in how we provide water and maintenance to our parks, because if we'd followed what at least one member of the Groundwater Authority wanted, the city would be paying about $600,000 a year in replenishment fees to water our parks, and which I don't think would be, one, we couldn't afford it, and two, it would be detrimental to the community. So there are some issues that we do need to talk about, like your letter, asking the Water District to consider, financing the replenishment fee Nobody buys a house with cash, or at least nobody I know. Most everybody finances it. We can reduce, if it's financed, we can reduce the replenishment fee maybe upwards to 75%, which really has a concern. I know that Mr. Heyman's been concerned back in September of 2000 about working on getting that replenishment fee reduced, and we've been working very diligently trying to get some of this litigation off the table so it can be financed. And I think it is of the interest for the City Council to maybe exert some pressure on an entity that is not willing to finance it to keep the rates, the replenishment fee rates extremely high for the citizens. We don't know the reason why. One, they're paying it in protest, but there is a concern for the City Council is how do we lower our water rates when they're basically artificially high because we need to buy permanent water. We know that under any circumstances out there that we're eventually going to have imported water, so we have to buy the water now. So yes, we could be discussing that. That is important. Those are some issues we need to be talking about that the City Council needs to be vocal. But there are some conversations we have to be careful of because we have to protect our water rights that are now in jeopardy for our parks and our community. Because I'll be frank with you, the only green grass we're going to have in this community is our parks at the end of the day. And we as a city have to protect our water rights, and we have to be, willing to step up and do that. So, yes, I say we can discuss this because I think we need to be vocal about some of this stuff because there is a lot of information that is misleading, that is being pushed out there on social media, that's being pushed by a few individuals. And I think it is to the city's interest to be able to get some of this information out.
I agree 100%. And with that, I think it would behoove the council to think a moment before answering a question. And we have legal counsel, with Lloyd and Keith, that can advise us on whether that is a answerable question or not. And I think that we would, want to utilize that, and we could stay within those parameters. And because I feel wholeheartedly that for us as a council, we need this opportunity as a council to be able to discuss these very issues that Ron Strand just brought up about the letter, the different options that are out there that do make sense that we can talk about as a council and support as a group, or however things pan out. But I think it's our time and moment up here to utilize that in a productive way.
Agreed.
Okay.
So I'd like to see it stay as a discussion item rather than a committee report.
I think that's wise.
The best idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. We're agreed. Okay. That was regarding the GA and the resolution. You suggested that I would like to get other inputs in regards to whether that resolution coming forward to the council, going to a committee.
The resolution that was
The
pitched?
proposed resolution presented by the public this evening.
Okay. I would like to talk about that. May I?
Yeah, that's.
Okay.
I'm asking whether we want to agenda.
I'm
Yeah, but you
sorry.
got to get close to your mic.
Can you all hear me? I'm sorry. I have a number of questions. I hate the idea of masks. I hate the idea of people telling me what I can and cannot do. But I would like to have the opportunity to explore the options we have. I don't know that we can do that in 2 weeks. I don't know we may be able to, but I don't want to say that it must be on the next agenda. I would like to have the opportunity for staff to not interrupt everything they're doing to get this item, which is really, I can see, is important to all of us in the community, whether you believe in vaccines or you don't, whether you believe in masks or you don't. I want to make sure we have good, strong input from our council, from our staff, and from the public. To mandate it, that it be on the next agenda, I don't think the time frame is as important as getting the options and the answers we need. Now I would like to ask some questions.
Peggy, can we come back? Can I have you hold your questions for your council comments?
Oh, I thought
Since
that's
I'm
what
just
we
trying
were
to
doing.
resolve whether this should be on a future agenda item at this time.
I think she's talking about her rationale of whether or not she...
Exactly, and that's why I let her finish that. And then she said she had some questions, which
Okay.
would be related to, is it related to whether it should be on the agenda?
No.
Okay, that's what I was specifically.
Okay, my apologies.
No, I'm going to bring you right back. You're going to have plenty
Okay.
of opportunity. I just want to make sure that the question is whether or not it needs to be on, I personally would also want to give staff sufficient time to be able to present to us and to the public exactly what the possible potential ramifications are and how it affects our overall relationship with the city, with the county, the state, with multiple.
Well, yeah, as much as in spirit, I support the movement. I don't understand really what the resolution is asking.
Correct.
The resolution's asking us to enter litigation with the school district, and I think, my personal opinion is that's an issue with the hospital and with the school district. For us to be able to tell the hospital and the school district that they shouldn't follow the rules, it makes it very difficult for us as an entity to support these other folks that are making these very difficult decisions.
Yeah, well, even then, the resolution isn't even specifically asking for direct action. I know that entering an amicus brief was mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure which one, though that would have to be researched. I guess what I'm bringing up is it seems like there's an awful lot of staff time that needs to be devoted to this. I'm just bringing that up as a point. So a future agenda item, sure, but I don't know.
I think
it seems like a lot of work on the staff's part.
Okay.
Because now you'd have to go out and figure out what the ramifications are if we. First of all, legal would have to figure out what the amicus brief is going to be. I guess it could all come back to discussion. But that's what I thought while I read this. I was reading as everybody was talking. I was appreciating the spirit of it. I took notes as everybody talked. If I missed something, I would love to know what I missed. I don't know what it is we as a city are going to do.
Personally, I think it's important, based on the comments made by the public, the magnitude of the effects that are going to be brought upon individuals in the community, on the mandates and how it's going to affect their lives, and in a wide variety of job types in the community.
May impact.
Well, it's impacting them now, and so my thoughts are, we as a council need to have discussion to see what is this, what are these issues, how is it affecting individuals in our community, how is it going to affect them in the short term, long term, and so that then we can make decisions on whether we think it's an important maneuver or decision to.
So agreed. Again, in spirit, agree it should be an agenda item. I don't know when that push. I'm making a comment, general comment to the public. Not sure exactly what it's asking for because it was a rather general, in the gray area resolution. So then we're handing the staff a general in the gray area resolution. So we're not going to be able to take action on much. And I think that just needs to be prefaced with the public. Should we discuss it? Absolutely.
I think we should.
In a time
But
frame?
what we're discussing then is we're really discussing the
Public's
third
comments.
wave of COVID's impact on our community, rather than we're discussing any specific resolution or amicus brief or anything of that nature. We're actually saying, from what you're saying, is what is the ramifications or impacts as it's affecting the community again?
Well, it's, you know what, we can have that discussion, I guess, when it hits the agenda. I just want to preface the expectations, that's all.
I think I don't agree. I agree with the principles of the morality. The difference is personal versus public. There's a line there that is tricky. Personally, I think that we're all in a state of flux right now because are we walking 1 foot forward or 1 foot backwards? And this city council, at this time, I would say, can we agree to give staff the opportunity to bring it back to the council as an appropriate action or with appropriate information at a future meeting without giving specifically the next meeting?
Well, in that spirit, genuinely, whatever the staff thinks. However, the staff may say, well, you know what, just go ahead and discuss it because there's not.
We have been at this crossroads several times since the beginning of COVID. Anything we do is going to divide our community.
Yep.
If we take action and we support in the effort of the litigation to stop the masking at the schools, whether we agree with it personally or not, there's several people in our community that agree with that. So we are going to be, no matter what we do, we're going to be dividing our community. We could be a conduit for allowing people to get up and vent, which is a good thing. We've done that in the past. But to begin to enter litigation or lawsuits, we're already engaged in a lot of litigation with the Groundwater Authority. We're already engaged in a lot of controversial stuff. I think that, in talking with the school district, with Mr. Oshtash, they are following the law. Whether they agree with it or not, they're an entity that has to follow the law. Same with the hospital. Hospital has to follow the law. And if they don't, they lose funding, they can have issues. So I look at this as no matter what we do, we are going to divide and have issues with some segment of our public. So whether the council opens it up to allow people to vent and have a forum to talk, or if we do take a position, I think everybody agrees that we should have personal choice, but you also have the state that has taken away some of that personal choice. So do we then take the stand of, no vaccine, no forced vaccine, but then you have people in our community that believe that there should be the vaccine. So no matter what we do, we're in a lose-lose situation.
What I do think, just to state, I think that hearing the public out is good for us then to at least echo to our policymakers and our representatives above us. Exactly. You know what I mean? So we may not be, we may not appreciate the governor's stance on things. I think that's putting it lightly. But we can certainly convey from our public to the representatives above us. We have Vince Vaughn and Shannon Grove and Kevin McCarthy and Philip Peters, and so those are all folks that we can then convey. Look, I don't know if you're getting the message, but the public is not happy. This is the way we see things going, and it's dividing our community. What do you?
I feel it's a very big concern that is growing, and that we need to address it. And I think it's important that we as a council get educated on why is it that people are upset, and they need to be able to and there's a lot of data out there. There's a lot of new data. There's the data in COVID is ever changing. I mean, if you follow and you read the research and you read, and I'm not talking the fringe areas. I'm talking scientific data, stuff printed in Cell Journal. So I think it's important that we do discuss it and have it as a community ability to come and talk and to inform ourselves, and then we can make decisions from there. And I like the idea of bring it up. We have other legislative individuals that. I mean,
that's the process, right? That's the only way we. That's the only way we affect.
We're feeling heat on this end,
sure.
And there's no reason why that when something is brought forward, that it's not questioned to determine is it just, is it correct, is it right?
And that's fine.
We don't just roll over at the whim of whoever's in charge at the moment, and so I think it's very important for us to follow through on this.
Would we say then a future agenda item is a discussion about the impacts of potential changes on our community? Which would be a discussion of the potential impacts on what vaccine mandates, what employment practices may have on the community.
Okay, so may I ask my questions now?
You can now.
We're
working through
I'm not
this.
interrupting you, Peggy. I mean, Lloyd's going to chime in here any minute and tell us.
He's coming.
Yes, it should be on a future agenda item. Can we disagree on that?
And then I'm going to give you Is there a general consensus that yes, we'll have a future agenda item?
I would even say we could have it as the next one.
I'm fine with it. Okay.
Just discussion, no resolution. I would like us to look at this, that how it affects our business community. And I think that's very, very important. We cannot, many of us who are small businesses cannot withstand a shutdown again. many of them economically, and many of them won't. How do we deal with that? I would like us to look at that.
So,
I've got 5.
A broad spectrum.
Right now, that's not on the table. The governor hasn't, we haven't got back up
that.
yet.
I know, but that is, when we are listening, I want us to remember these questions. Is that okay to ask?
Go for it.
Okay. When children go to school today, what are they required to do before they start school? I remember my mother in 1952 died of polio. Polio was not a vaccine at that time. In 53, polio was a vaccine. I know what the vaccines can and cannot do in most cases. I wonder if we look at what is required of kids who go to school today and understand that this is not something new. Booster shots, measles and mumps and all those things. Okay, that. I would like to know that what are the options if someone does not get a vaccine? People were talking about them being fired. I believe the options are, unless I'm mistaken, that you get the vaccine or you are tested. I don't think, and if somebody knows something different, I would like to know that. Okay. The other thing, our jurisdiction in looking at that. I want us to make sure not everything has to have a jurisdictional issue. Sometimes it can just be a moral issue that we can discuss rather than take a stand on and help us understand. In the long run, our community matters most. Those people who believe that if you don't have a vaccine, you are putting my life at risk. If you don't wear a mask, you are putting my life at risk. I don't want to see everybody in this community who believes that has to stay in their home forever. And so I want to be able to look at both sides. The division of what this is going to do to our community if we take a stand is going to be unbelievable. You can talk about what the casino did. The casino is nothing compared to what will happen to our community if we divide up and start saying you must or you can't. You will or you won't. And I want us to be able to understand what the options are. Those are the things I would ask if staff is going to bring something back to us to be able to address some of those issues. Thank you.
Okay.
Now, some of those issues are way out of our
I got it.
jurisdiction. I'd have to have Mr. Suver come in here to talk about what he's planning on doing with his hospital staff, because everything that staff's going to come back with is going to just be hearsay, what we get off the internet or what we get off of a press release. Same with the school district. We have no control over what the school district does with the students and what Mr. Ostash would do. So we can bring this stuff back to you, but you're going to find a lot of these answers are going to be at Shannon Grove's level or Vince Fong's level, because these are the folks that control the assembly.
I don't think you're going to be able to give us very strong answers.
We're not going to give you very strong answers, just whether
I
or
know
not
that.
it's whether or not we want to actually be engaged in taking a side in this.
That's correct.
That's my concern.
That's where you're going.
I don't want to take a side. I want information.
I think it's always good to let the public come in and give and talk and express themselves, because
Right.
people do watch these meetings, and I think that there is value in listening to the public on this, because
know
there are two very important sides to this.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why we let them have,
Right.
again, I wasn't going to try to tie
Yeah.
down anything. This is, I'm saying if we're going to have the future agenda item, good.
I just think
We'll have a
from
general information
staff's,
conversation.
I'm just thinking from staff's perspective, not unless we're willing to engage in litigation outside the city, or engage in litigation on behalf of the Sierra Sands Unified School District with the Kern County Superior Court, all we can be is a sounding board. So we can come back and leave it open and give our perspective of what we haven't had an order for the city to have mandatory vaccination
Right.
of our employees yet. That is something we would have direct control over, whether or not we would then comply or not comply.
Correct.
But they're asking us to be engaged in other entities' stuff, the school district. And I know they have a meeting tomorrow night. I'm sure that they're going to have the same, folks come down and talk and express themselves, and I'm sure they're going to be willing to listen. But we're going to be limited on what we can do. Or we just take a side and then we're polarizing our community. I think we allow both sides from staff's perspective, both sides to come in and express themselves, and maybe through that we'll have some understanding. But we do have very limited control over what's happening.
Agreed. And I think maybe that discussion, that we can get part of that message across, that we have very minimal control over it.
I think what they're saying is extremely important.
But that the personal versus public. I'm not saying that there's, we're letting it go. That horse is dead. Okay. Next is mayor and council comments.
I thought that's what we were doing.
Sort of. But we were clarifying for staff what we wanted to come back as a future agenda item.
Okay. Right. All right. Well, that was my command.
And I think we accomplished that.
Can I go?
I only have
Huh? Let's go we'll go left to right this time.
So my only comment on I have had people requesting I somehow became the trash guy because and you know what? I'm okay with it. I'm actually, it's important to me. So it is another thing I got. I had somebody volunteer to not give out, but let us use their big dump trailer. I don't know if we're going to need another letter from the county, so that's something I'll have to work through. Last time we had our chief of police work through it, it was, it's just a step to go through. And then I will arrange a day. I've been waiting for the heat to die down, to be honest with you. It's just, people are not going to want to come out on a
Do
Saturday.
you think that person would work with a private organization that was doing cleanup?
Oh, the person who volunteered the trailer? Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Blades, can I add something to that?
Absolutely.
During the next council meeting, I'll be bringing to you an MOU with the county. For us, the county has conducted a 218 hearing and increased their solid waste fees. And part of that, each city, including the county, received a portion of funding to address litter issues within the community. We're going to be receiving about $203,000, and staff intends to come back to council with the plan to hire a couple additional maintenance workers and a code enforcement officer to be able to begin the trash cleanup. As part of that MOU, what the city manager group asked for was to be able to have access to dump for free litter at the dump, and that's been approved. During our negotiations with Waste Management, we are going to include in there the ability for Waste Management to provide as part of our contract roll-off containers for litter cleanup. So we're going to be addressing this either through this MOU or through our contract with Waste Management, the ability to be able to have access to the trash containers, have access to being able to dump for free.
I'm glad you said that. Yeah. To add to that, Caltrans does have this Clean California thing coming. I have emailed them. You guys may have heard more than I have. They have not quite worked out how that money's coming.
Still crickets.
Well, they got back to me and they said, we will have a free dump day. There will be some large pickup days. We haven't completely vetted out because I don't think the monies came down to them yet and how they can use it.
Actually, an email came out on Monday for a webinar, and that's been assigned to Megan to follow up on how we're going to apply for that allotment of the grant.
Awesome.
So that is coming out.
Trash man, I was also going to let you know
Yeah.
that I do know, sorry, couldn't help myself, that I know a local business has sponsored to adopt a highway for South China Lake Boulevard to Highway 178. I know there's another local business that's talking about adopting the north portion of Highway 1 of China Lake Boulevard between Inyokern Road and China Lake Boulevard. I also know that one of the things that we intend to bring up in the bringing city org back up was teeth for business management of trash cleanup. If you have a storefront along,
right, like we have that area around, like in front of Walmart, I guess.
Yep.
It's pretty rough.
Yeah, staff's intent is to have at least 2 employees that will be engaged in the road cleanup as well as the enforcement aspect of it. Some of these issues we have are on private property, so we do have to put the property owner on notice to be able to go on the land to be able to clean it. So
another issue I see in the same vein is those recycling, that recycling roll-off that sits over almost by our yard. That thing gets so full of cardboard, and then people start stacking stuff around it. I understood that was a county function?
No.
Or is it waste management? Or is
That was part of our contract with Waste Management, and we do plan to include that within the agreement, but might expand it, because right now they do one roll-off during certain times of year around Christmas time. We have a second one come out. But as you know, our community receives a significant amount of packages in the mail.
Yeah.
And, not unless we want to start doing weekly recycling and added that cost to it, then having those dumpsters out there alleviates that issue of doing weekly recycling pickup. So I think as part of our negotiations with Waste Management is to continue that, maybe to expand it.
Yeah, I think I've received enough Amazon packages that I paid for Bezos's trip up into the.
I don't know if any of you guys also have trash enclosures at your businesses or properties. I do, and I can just tell you that Christmas time is a very interesting time.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because that cardboard, it's an issue.
Because a public area that's a trash enclosure.
Well, to Waste Management's benefit, when we did ask them to bring an additional roll-off, they did, and that did alleviate some of the issues that we had.
Okay.
So
the other comment, I guess these comments are turning more into questions. And Rick, if you don't mind if I can put you on the spot for a moment.
Sure.
In a good way, since we know we have a recall vote looming, and most people haven't mailed their ballots, but I am having a small percentage of the community ask me if they can still come and vote. I know that you would have that answer. I just want you to put it out formally. I know what the answer is, but
Sure.
yeah.
I actually posted this on the city webpage today because I've been getting a lot of calls. We are going to have normal polling locations in Ridgecrest. As far as I know, and as far as the county told me today, everybody's on schedule. The regular churches, the Kerr McGee Center, all the places are scheduled to be open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on that day. You can either mail your ballot in. It's the same regulations as a regular vote, even though it's a special election. You can mail your ballot in, or you can fill it out completely and bring it and drop it off on Election Day at one of the polling places, or you can bring your sealed ballot to the polling place, trade it for a vote-in-person ballot, and vote there. If you can't bring your ballot with you to trade, if you've lost it or didn't get it, that's fine. You can still come vote, but you're going to vote provisional. And all that means is that they do all the regular ballots first to make sure that your ballot, you're not voting twice. So that's all the provisional means. It doesn't mean it's not going to be counted. So it's just like a regular election, even though it's a special election.
Thanks, Ricka.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. Cool. And the other comments I did have was about I wanted to comment on communication and a little bit on water. And I want to thank you, Mr. Wicknick, for saying what you said earlier. It's encouraging. Because, when the very first thing, when I first got on council, I was appointed. And once I was appointed, Peggy said, as the mayor, I need you to come by and talk to me. We need to have a discussion about some things, and I want to know where you sit. And she asked me a lot of the same questions as you. What's your stance on politics? How do you think things work? Do you understand even how local government works? Okay, we've got through all that, and the last thing she asked me is, what do you think we really need to focus on in the city? And I said, having been on the Planning Commission, have been paying attention, I think the city of Ridgecrest, especially the staff, that they're doing a lot of good work, but people don't know about it. I know that it took me getting on the Planning Commission to really see how the sausage is made and really see how things are working. I could tell you that, you could have taken me back when I was fresh out of the Army, and if somebody would have said, hey, how does that light get fixed? The small things. What's even the process of the road? Where do our taxes go? All those things. So the city's busy working, and we were asked that at some point in our in the town hall meeting. We were asked, what are you guys doing? What are you even doing? Because we're not telling our story very well. And so I have tried to increase that communication a lot. If I can get on social media and say something to people, yeah, there's a lot of stuff we can't say, of course. We're not supposed to sit there and discuss details upon details so somebody can screenshot it and then they can take that out of context and that can go somewhere else. That is a lawyer's nightmare, is a council person on Facebook. But we still put it out there. We put it, as much as we can. Share information. If somebody on this council shares something, I'm going to share it. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, yes, I'm going to continue to reach out to people and tell them to get a hold of me. There's a lot we can say in person. There's a whole lot we can say in person. I can give an unadulterated opinion on something that has no, it's a different story. So that offer is still always going to be there. And especially on the water, the reason I don't think that we ever pointed this out, or we pointed it out in the meeting, but I think often we get so close to the trees that we skip over the forest. And the reason we could not talk about specific water for that one meeting was because you actually couldn't, right, Scott? I think you actually, in a position of being like use the right term, was like an arbitrator, you had to be kept agnostic. So we could not ask you certain discussions because it couldn't sway your view of taking, it was testimony or something to that effect.
It was a hearing.
It was because it was a hearing. You were part of it. We couldn't ask you questions on the upcoming agenda. Right. And so all I'm saying is there were specific details. There's reasons we couldn't ask you about that. And then the adjudication hit. It isn't like we just can't talk about water. We could talk about water all day long, even though we can't take action on it here.
And so. I just would say, too, that at that point in time, there were lawsuits that were being heard in court, and
sure.
Decisions were about to be made, and so when it comes to
sure. And
certain
I think
aspects, it's probably, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think everybody, especially voters, anybody watching, I mean, Rick, you said there was at least some people watching tonight.
There's 14 watching.
14 people?
Right now.
Okay. The number went down when I started talking.
Yes.
Okay. wait till I get up now. There'll be one, because it was 16, I was 14. That's okay. I'm not taking it personal. But I mean, the voters should understand that there's no reason to pull Ridgecrest into needless litigation. So that's what we're trying to do. I can tell you that there's no part of me that wants to shy away from a conversation. And I'm saying that with zeal to anybody out in the public, anybody listening. I have a lot to say. I have a lot of opinions. And I'll say them to anybody who approaches me in the street. I don't shy away from much. I don't talk about my employer because I've been instructed not to. No uncertain terms, zip my lip, and I will do that. And I've been reminded that. Some of the first time I've been told to zip my lip. But when it comes to water, we can have those discussions. I'm still going to encourage people to get a hold of me personally. And I think that's all I had to say.
Okay, Solomon?
I have two comments to make. One is the trash, which I emailed Mr. Strand, and thanks for getting back to me. I always felt it's not the responsibility of our citizens to clean our roads. We should have some funding for that. So, I mean, we are glad they are trying to help clean the roads, but it is the city's responsibility to take care of our roads. We have Measure V money. If we don't have some grants, we need to use that money to make sure our roads are clean. We want this town to be high-tech, but our streets are low-tech. So we need to pay attention to those minor things.
Once we put the fiber in, it'll be high-tech roads. Just sorry, couldn't help myself.
The second item, I thought a lot about this, whether to talk about this today or not, but so much was talked about communication, especially Mr. Whitnick brought about communication. So I thought I should go ahead and make this comment. The city is doing a great job. Public Works is doing a great job filling up the potholes, road repairs, slurry, road lining. Our roads are looking a lot better now. So I really want to thank you for that. And from this dais, we keep inviting people to bring issues to our notice, but some of the issues we try to ignore. We don't want to talk about them. So by doing that, the good things which we have done are being overshadowed by what we are not able to pay attention to. So I just want to bring this to your attention. It's my duty, I don't want to talk about on behalf of the council members, but I'll say I think it is my personal responsibility to take care of the public issues because I have been put here by them. So I want to make their issues, talk in the public, not behind the scenes. We need to have a proper discussion in the public with regard to whatever they bring to our notice. So having said that, I want to bring one incident to this council's attention. Some of the citizens brought to my notice that the road downs between Inyakan Road and Ward, it was paved like 3 months back, but the lines were not drawn, especially the bike lines. They brought it to my attention on the 25th of July. I immediately took up with the administration, and a couple of days back I was told it will be done in the near future. So I don't know when that near future was coming. So I waited. So then I called later on, and then I was told they are waiting for the cap seal to be done. Okay. I was driving on that road every day. I went every day evening, saw what is happening. So on the 3rd of this month, I saw cap seal is done. So I waited for a couple of days whether the lines will be drawn. Meanwhile, the citizens have been calling me and trying to find out what is happening. So I waited, and then I got with the administration again on the 11th. I had no response. So where is the communication we are talking about? It's only one way. So we want them to contact us, but I am not in a position to tell them what is happening because I am not getting any response from the administration. So I still don't understand how it can take 4 months for the road repair to be done. So that's a matter of concern for me. So thank you.
Doc? I only have one comment, and I just want to bring it to everybody's attention. The deadlines for some of the classes and stuff that we're required to take, is that coming up pretty soon? And I know myself, I've got to meet a class or two. So if anybody else does, just remember, deadlines will be coming up pretty soon. Talk to Trish in HR.
Only takes about 2 hours.
Yeah, thanks. I almost forgot about that.
Only takes about 2 hours, guys.
Thank you.
Harassment one?
Huh?
The harassment one took
Yeah.
2 hours? I was going to do that.
It's 45 slides.
It's very easy to do while you're doing, have it on your computer, listen to it while you're working. It's very easy to do. I mean, you can listen and
I'm not going to tell them how to cheat.
that's not cheating.
So
I'm
if
just
you
saying you
don't
don't have
talk to
to
anybody,
Multitasking.
because
there's no
it reads to
harassment,
you.
right? Okay.
You don't have to read. It's an audiobook, yeah.
My favorite part of that is I've had to take it 3 different ways for 3 different boards for 3 different times in the same year.
So what I heard is you learned a lot,
Let's put it this way,
and we will have no
I'm going to be a
issues.
master at getting myself in lawyer trouble.
I've got my 5 questions, so thank you all.
So Lloyd's still on the line, so I can make sure to make his life challenging with my final comments.
What is happening? Because I am not getting any response from the administration.
Yes, sir.
He's here. Okay, good. Lloyd, remember Lloyd, I want you to have your finger on the nuke button right now. So tonight wasn't easy. It's funny because I chose to take on this role because I care about the community, and I really feel I feel passionately for the people that are here and trying to show their expressions and giving them a chance to speak. But there's a hard line that I think is just really tricky. This wasn't an easy night for me. I have to tell you, Marilyn Neal's comments from Brown University rang home hard because I have a baby girl that I did see those impacts on her socialization and how it impacted her last year being, in her development stages under COVID. And I think that that's what's lost on the public sometimes is that we aren't people up here that feel the same way when we desperately do. I feel incredibly saddened with what's happened on our military fronts and what's happened in Afghanistan. I have a father who served in Vietnam. Both of my father and my father-in-law both served. I have uncles and cousins that have served, and it's hurtful. I have a cousin that serves in the police department when I hear defund. We're people up here. We feel many of the things you might feel. But we were elected to serve our community. We were elected to serve the entire city of Ridgecrest, not just individual emotions or individual feelings. And so that's why I kept saying the terms personal over public. My role here, right now, in this seat, is as mayor of the city of Ridgecrest to represent the best interests of the citizens of the city of Ridgecrest. And that means all of the citizens, which is why I asked about like the percentage. How many? That's about 3% of our population that's participating. That's very good to know. I just want to make sure that as a human being, I say a few things. I respect the concern of our frontline workers, police, hospital, all of these different areas, but the hospital is a private business. I run a private business, and if you came in and told me how I need to run my private business, I would probably challenge you the same way I would expect anyone else would. They are a private business and needs to run accordingly. I feel for them, but that's personal feelings versus public duty. I respect the concerns of the DOD employees who are talking about, and I hadn't heard that DOD was talking about a mandate. That would be scary. Look at my face. That's scary. But again, I'm not the federal government. Last time I checked, I have no role with the federal government other than my job is to adjudicate and to serve the citizens of the city of Ridgecrest. And I just want to remind the community out there, because it's going to be a fun week, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry is going to say we don't want to listen, and we don't want to talk, and we don't want to this, and we don't want to that. But there's a huge line between personal and public. And respecting that is the duty of an elected official. And I'm proud to be able to do that part. So with that, I'm going to close up the night. Thanks for an entertaining evening. 8:36, who wins tonight? Jed is the winner. Everyone have a wonderful evening. Good night and good luck, and we'll see you at the beginning of September.